Good afternoon, everybody. Do you know these mountains? Did you climb it? No, you didn't. This is Mars. Mars, yeah. This is Mars. And this picture was taken by a robot controlled by the Earth, from the Earth, yeah. Who are the humans? The humans are the space able to play with a radio-controlled toy car on another planet. Wow. Wow. Yes, I'm a priest, I come from the Vatican, my English is terrible, and I think that artificial intelligence systems are wow. Wow. An incredible opportunity. Probably the incredible opportunity of this time. And a great opportunity not to be wasted. This is why we need ethics. Not because we are frightened by apocalyptic scenarios. No, I don't believe in apocalyptic scenarios on AI. And not because we have to defend an idea of humanity. What is an idea? I know only real people, not an idea of humanity. The ethics of artificial intelligence, so the ethics of the people who design, build, and use this system is needed because we cannot waste this incredible opportunity. In 2020, the Pontifical Academy for Life, that is the Vatican office in which I work, and I serve as coordinator of the central office, proposed a document, a call on AI ethics. And the first signatories was the president of Microsoft, the vice president of IBM, the general director of FAO, at the time minister of Italian government, and the last one was the CEO of Cisco, for example. And after them, more than 100 universities in the world, and now we are working with all the religious leaders. Yes. We need to work together for an ethical vision on artificial intelligence, because we cannot waste this great opportunity. AI systems impose new responsibilities on scientific research, particularly in the field of healthcare. On this topic, now we want to discuss with two great experts, because I'm not a great expert, I'm a simple priest. We have the pleasure to present Alberto TOZZI. I read, is a pediatrician and epidemiologist with a long experience in vaccines and the surveillance and prevention of infectious disease. He worked as a researcher in the Italian National Public Health Institute for over 15 years, focusing on vaccination strategies. He has collaborated with the World Health Organization and the European Center for Disease Control in the prevention of infectious disease. In 2024, he moved to the Bambino Gesù Hospital here in Rome, where he held positions of responsibility in the prevention of infectious disease, telemedicine, and innovation in pediatrics. He is currently head of the Predictive and Preventive Medicine Research Unit. In this role, he deals with some projects for the application of artificial intelligence to pediatrics and training on this topic. As a corresponding member of Pontifical Academy for Life, he works on the ethical issues of technologies in pediatrics. He is also president of the International Society for Pediatric Innovation. On the left. On the right, Mauro FERRARI, a pioneer in the fields of innovative therapeutics and biomedical technologies in oncology and other domains of medicine. His work has given rise to dozens of new drugs and diagnostic devices in use in clinical and laboratory settings worldwide. PhD in mechanical engineering at Berkeley. He studied also mathematics, medicine, business administration. I don't know what else, music, cook, I don't know. And he served as professor at Berkeley at Ohio State University. He's professor and chairman, University of Texas Anderson Cancer Center, president and CEO of Houston Methodist Hospital and Research Institute, president of the European Research Council. Today, is professor of pharmaceutics at the University of Washington in Seattle, senior most member of board of director the Arrowhead Pharmaceuticals, president, CEO, director, scientific founder, Beerjet Pharma. It's worse than me. So what else? Mauro Ferrari Family Foundation, member of Pontifical Academy for Life, board member of Renaissance Foundation. His work with AI is primarily related to the identification, research, and development of novel pharmaceutical agents. On the right. Thank you. So, we have decided to offer 20 minutes, some ideas, and then to open a Q&A session. So, be free to have a question, to work and to stay with them. First idea, okay, AI ethics in healthcare field. What do you have in mind when we talk about wow, oh my gosh, risks, opportunities? What's your idea?
You know, being a medical doctor, I'm very much aware of the difficulty of medical doctors to accept innovations. You remember maybe that in the old story of technology introduced into medicine, we had terrible things. For example, devices for hearing sounds for the heart, for example, were cleared just after 40 years. They were discovered just because medical doctors were not trusting this new technology. Same things happen for other technologies, including AI. So on one hand, I think there's the fear to embrace a technology that might be very dangerous. On the other hand, medical doctors don't study yet what is inside this object. And we already have some medical products that are available for clinical practice. And we ask ourselves if these kind of things are actually good as humans, useful, and sometimes if they cost more than we can afford. There are some of the basic information that we should take into account when we think about ethics in artificial intelligence. One basic thing is AI needs data. And without data, we can't do any AI. But the interesting thing is that AI learns about examples. And if we don't have enough examples in our algorithms, it doesn't work, simply. We can train algorithms to recognize several diseases in one hospital. Then we go to another hospital. And since the algorithm was not trained with that data, it doesn't work anymore. So first thought is where the data come from and where we should get the right data. Ideally, I would say that we should get as much data as we can, possibly every single data in the world. This is not possible, actually, but we must think very carefully about the quality of the algorithms based on the data they're trained with. This is the first thought. Another point is about the culture of medical doctors and healthcare practitioners in general, because there's a little bit of distrust, lack of confidence about technologies. They're felt like magic bullets most of the times, but medical doctors are more trained to work with their hands, and it's much more difficult to trust something which is not very explainable. This is one of the basic things. So this lack of culture and this lack of understanding how this works is a problem, and we should overcome that, because this is not only for medical doctors, but exactly, we can't say perfectly why a specific algorithm starts with some data and has a specific output. This is the black box problem. This is not transparent. On the other hand, we're trying to do our best to understand at least what we put into this machine and why, and some examples that represent why we get some outputs. It's very difficult that we come out with a simple solution and explanation of what happens into an algorithm, but this is one of the basic things that we should clear. The third thing is that, especially in healthcare, I feel like we can't passively accept what's happening outside. So we can't accept algorithms based on some work made just by data scientists, for example. We absolutely need that every single AI product is made with the help of every single stakeholder. And you know, multidisciplinarity is a difficult exercise, because most of the times we as medical doctors perceive ourselves as gods. We can't do everything. And we must lend to other places where the right thing is staying at the same table with other people. Having these three things, I think that we can start making a good journey and start having at least address some of the basic ethical questions. We can't address everything, but we can start.
Thank you. Mauro.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you, Don Andrea, and thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor to be here with all of you. In the spirit of transparency, I will tell you my bias. We'll talk about biases later on, I think. My bias is that I love a world where people have diverging opinions, where can they disagree and still respect each other. And to be able to do that, you also need to have the ability and the willingness to kind of strip yourself of protections a little bit and declare what you think, what you believe in. It is amazing to me that in the last few decades, the notion of identifying ourselves by our set of beliefs, such as religious beliefs, ethical beliefs, is something that is frowned upon in the very institutions we are talking about. In the medical care, I used to run a hospital that was of a Protestant Christian origin, and even there, the notion was, well, I don't even say about it, don't talk about Jesus too much. So how can you be transparent if you don't declare where you come from, but always keeping in mind that the key notion is to be able to respect each other's opinions even when they diverge. And I don't believe in a world where people talk so much and don't practice it. So what I'm going to talk about today is going to be mostly opinions that I don't agree with. But I will tell you which ones I do, which ones I don't, and I'll try to be fair. And if I'm not fair, you tell me it's my fault, I tried, but we are all imperfect. Certainly I am, right? So with that in mind, I'm not going to talk about the great principles that have emerged from the Rome call to ethics in AI. You will hear about them tonight, I presume, and perhaps later on today. I'm going to be looking a little bit at perspectives that you can find and document yourselves from different angles that are not necessarily religious. I will declare that I am certainly very much interested in religious things. I consider myself a Catholic, even though that's a bit of an embarrassment to the Catholic Church. I recognize that. So with that in mind, let's look at 5 principles that kind of everybody said, what they call responsible AI. Kind of everybody kind of sort of agrees with the notion that transparency is number 1. You need to be transparent. Let me give an example. Now, AI is used in healthcare all the time to make decisions about patients or to propose to patients, once a diagnosis is made, what is the proper course of action for therapy and management of their conditions. Well, transparency in that context, if you want to use AI, is to make sure that the patient understands the limitation of the algorithm. The biases that are built into the algorithm, not simple. It's easy to talk the high talk. The reality and the practice is incredibly complicated, perhaps impossible. Especially, thank you, sir, I like him already. Especially because one of the great strengths of AI is this notion that it is able to evolve, to adapt, to learn from its own mistakes, and give you better fits to what is reality. Great, but let me ask a question that relates to another one of those 5 points. Does anybody ever talk about those errors that you are using to learn something new and make your system better? That error means that somebody has gotten hurt or has died or has gotten a less ideal course of treatment that otherwise you could make. So our responsibility if you use AI is to continue to do surveillance and monitoring like we do with drugs, like we should do with drugs. We kind of sort of do with drugs to the extent that reality allows us to do it. So it's the same issue. So accountability, transparency. What else? Impartiality. Impartiality. The notion is that everything we do in healthcare is supposed to be helping everybody fairly, equally. Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Everybody gets the same healthcare everywhere in a country, in the world. We all know that is not the case. But it is our ethical responsibility, I think everybody agrees, to strive for that. And a huge danger of AI is what some people call the digital health divide. You get access to AI-driven innovation and the clinical management. You know what? You have a much better chance to have a longer and healthier life. And those that don't, the divide is going to continue to grow worse and worse, also because the data sets that we use for training are based on the success stories, and the success stories, we talk about genetics, the socio-economic impact drivers of health are huge. And where do you get those? You get those from mostly social media, which brings up the other, that's where you get where people really live. You look at their Facebook page, you follow what sites they track, what they can buy. You can do things like that. And for that, there is essentially zero protection. So the other big tenet of AI ethics, which is security and privacy, forget about it. There's no such a thing. So the impact, the thing that we can really aspire to do, because the things that we just talked about, that we really want to do that everybody agrees on, are all basically impossible. Our task is how do we behave responsibly, keeping in mind this sad reality and charting a course that can make things better. Great. I started out with the notion of responsible AI. Responsible, and with Andrea we were talking over lunch about, what can humans do the machines can't? Define responsible. That is the only thing. It's just the foundation of the foundation, what is responsible. And that is why it's important to talk about all of these things, even though they are impossible, because they allow us to bring out the differences among us. And if we don't let the conversation be killed by the differences, and that's the hardest thing, and the world is failing at that worse than ever, if you are able not to kill the conversation based on the differences, not to silence each other, not to overwhelm each other, shame each other into silence, or cancel each other, as people like to do sometimes, then what comes out is the things that bring us together, is the things that we share, which is the vast majority of our belief system, regardless of whether one comes from one set of ethics or a different one. The things that make us human are very similar. And it is so very easy to focus on the differences, but if we learn to go beyond that, I think we can make the world a better place and use this tool, which is AI, just a tool. There's nothing magical about it, to be more humans ourselves. Here we go.
Okay. So you can decide who is the priest on the stage. Wow. Okay, I give you my color.
I failed out of a seminary. I wanted to be a priest. They would never have somebody like me with cowboy boots and things.
We are in a scientific context, and so I would love to understand in a better way what are AI systems imposing on scientific research of today and tomorrow. Please answer me from the side of medical doctor, but also from the side of the patients. Please help us in understanding what patients are waiting for and are imaging. Thank you. What do you want to change? It's the same. What else?
Okay. Let's start from the patients. Patients want to know exactly what they're doing and what medical doctors are prescribing, which kind of medicine, which kind of therapy they're doing, and so on. We need people explaining clearly what they're doing when they are administered an AI product, for example. What are the errors, the potential errors they have in evaluating a diagnosis, sometimes even an intervention, because we have AI tools that are real therapies, actually. This is not magic, Mauro already said, and patients should know exactly what they have in front of them. Now, the problem is that medical doctors and people that were supposed to explain what AI is about, they don't know very precisely what AI is. This is the first problem. And one of the things that we struggle to do is try to discuss, because we don't have a clear definition which is including every single piece of what we are experiencing right now about AI. But we should explain at least what they should expect, what is the margin of errors, and how they can take some decisions. Because remember that in the process of medical therapy and the application of evidence-based medicine, the preference of patients and the decision of patients are central to the final take, which is the real therapy, the real strategy, and so on. So one of the problems is explaining clearly to patients what AI is about.
Please,
this is one.
Not 10 pages to sign every
Bravo.
time. So
you know what?
Otherwise it's terrible.
I'll make an example, which is very simple and you can do at home, because it's very simple. I don't know how many of you have experience in dealing with long informed consent documents, 10 pages long, written by lawyers. Can you understand something about
we love lawyers too.
Can you
No, we don't read.
You don't read. Can you expect patients understanding anything about these documents? Now, let's try to get one of these documents, put it into ChatGPT, and ask ChatGPT to translate this document into something which is understandable by a child 11 years old. And it works. It's fantastic. So, because actually what you get from ChatGPT is something which is essential, synthetic, basic concept, and explained with the right words, which is maybe not perfectly reflecting all the details from the point of view of the lawyer. But it's enough to explain to patients what's going on. This is one thing. So let's start thinking about AI also as a tool for trying to translate something into the language of somebody else. This is one. Now, let me get back to the problem of data. There's an interesting term that is coming out right now, which is data poverty, because actually AI tools are hungry of data, absolutely. And if you don't have data available, you have a problem. If you try to apply a diagnostic model trained on data coming from a certain geographic area, may not be applicable to others. We already experienced these kind of things. We have an application in our smartphone which is made for making this, the diagnosis of rare diseases, for example. We make a shot, a picture of the face of the child, and this algorithm tells you the probability of having a genetic disease. Professor Novelli will tell you about that. So this is called phase 2 gene. Unfortunately, this algorithm is trained on data coming from the US only. If you try to use this algorithm in South America, it doesn't work anymore. So how do we do for raising the sensibility and try to get the data where they don't come from? You know that Europe is great in making rules, you know, about GDPR. We are fantastic. Nobody beats Europeans about making laws, right? But actually, these rules are preventing the access to some data. And actually, what's happening in the other side of the world is that data are sold, sometimes are given for free. So what's happening is that some AI tools are trained on data coming from specific parts of the globe simply because data are accessible, and not from other parts of the world because they're not. So this is one of the things that we should address before embarking in research activities. Let me touch another point, which is we have been attending courses during our academic years about research methodology and other things. Now, the problem is that there are some of the things happening with AI are completely different from the traditional paradigms of clinical research. We have a lot of data, and we must use appropriate methodologies to deal with this kind of data, big data. We have things that are continuously transforming, because actually we're not dealing with static models in which we start an experiment, we end, and everything is done. No, everything is continuing to be transformed because every single algorithm should be continuously updated for reflecting exactly what's happening in the real world. This is the dream that we have. But this is not easy to address from the methodological point of view. Also, what are the proofs that we need for saying that AI is effective, efficacious, or safe? We know very well how to make a clinical trial, and we can apply clinical trial methodologies to some of AI interventions. But sometimes we don't have appropriate methodologies for doing that. I can tell you terrible stories about the real difficulty that we have, for example, for presenting protocols to our ethical committee in our hospital, because our templates are not made for AI. And actually, we are still missing some appropriate methods for explaining to an ethical committee and other scientists what an AI study is. So I think that we don't have all the responses yet, and many of these things should be addressed yet. But this is, again, just the start of a long story, and we are willing to make our best to make it fast, to make it good, and to make it useful for all the humanity, absolutely.
Thank you. Mauro,
Okay.
do you have an idea from the perspective of medical doctors, researchers, and patients?
All right. So, okay. First example. I think I got 3 or 4. First example. This notion of impartiality that we talked about earlier on, of course, hits the reality of the fact that different ethnic connotations in different regions where the data set comes from. So is the right answer impartiality, or to balance this thing? Is the right answer to bias it towards the less privileged communities? You know, this notion of, regardless of skin color, which was the Martin Luther King perspective, is challenged currently, certainly in the United States, perhaps worldwide, by this notion of critical race theory. You need to go above and beyond. It's not enough to look at everybody regardless of their background, regardless of the skin color and the experience that that brings. Perhaps you need to do more for those that have come from journeys that have been more difficult. That is, critical race theory is the perspective. Should we do more and invest more to bring it to more equity, as it is called, rather than equality? It's a controversial position, but that's a position that a lot of people are taking. I am certainly painfully cognizant of the fact that, healthcare treatment, certainly in my country, in the United States, is very different for different ethnic groups. Any metric you want to use. So how do you correct for that bias? there are different approaches to that, as we just mentioned. The one that I've taken is that I spin out companies. I've done that a few times in my life from my research lab or with helping others. And the one notion that I am experimenting with right now is not the notion of give the drug for free or give the treatment for a discount price. That's good. A lot of people do that. I think there's a lot of good in that. I give equity in the company, not equity in the sense of equity versus equality, equity in shares of the company. The church that I attend, now I'm confessing, this is going to cost me at least 10,000 years in purgatory. I hope you appreciate the effort. The church that I attend when I'm in Houston, Texas, which is where I live most of the time, or in San Francisco, Houston, Texas, but both churches are actually very similar, are not Catholic churches. They are both African-American churches. I was drawn to those because of music, and I found an environment that I love. I'm a singer, I like to sing, but I share a lot of values with that community. The priest and the wife of the priest, who's also a priest at my church, St. John's downtown, their motto is, I love you and there is nothing you can do about it, which I find to be very beautiful and talks about accepting differences and respecting differences. And so part of my most recent company, the one that I'm most engaged with right now, Pharmaceuticals, is given to the community, the notion being, I'm working on treating diseases that are most prevalent in African-American communities of the cancer type. Have a piece. Help me build it. Let's see if this thing helps out a little bit, and perhaps a similar approach could be used for AI. But I want to talk about one more thing, which is even worse than what I said so far. Thank you. It's in terms of responsibilities, for a time I had the privilege of serving in the capacity of medical advisor, scientific advisor to President von der Leyen of the European Union. And as part of my jobs under that, there was this notion that I was serving as president of the European Research Council, a very respected, wonderful organization. COVID came. And when COVID came, I had the privilege of advising President von der Leyen on how Europe should respond. And to me, this is all public information. You can go seek it out. You have the right to find it. My key recommendation was, in Europe, we have something that no other parts of the world has, which is many healthcare systems in each country, which are public. Wonderful, where there is an incredible amount of data. It's available to everybody on a rather equitable basis. Put the data together, put the countries together in sharing AI methods so that you share the values on which you are going to be building the algorithms for sharing the data, build consensus around that. And you're going to be developing vaccines personalized or specialized for different groups of people. That would have changed the history of medicine, I think. Certainly a very difficult proposition. Certainly a very difficult proposition. That was my recommendation. The other piece of that is keep manufacturing in Europe, so you don't have to buy from the Americans or from the Chinese. Somehow, I'm telling you my perspective, that's what I wrote down. I'm not going to back down from it. It's officially available, and that did not go anywhere. Did you see any of that happening? It didn't. Perhaps it was better than it didn't. Perhaps I would have made things worse with that set of recommendations if he had implemented. I don't know. I honestly don't know. So I'm going to be respecting the difference in position. But my feeling is, you were asking about science research and responsibility and transparency with AI and beyond. If you ask the questions the right way, you get answers that are closer to the truth using these systems. But then the question is, none of those algorithms are designed, if you build them in the scientific way, for censorship. But if you ask the same question on the big platform AI systems that you have out there, the answers will be answered. If you ask, where did the COVID virus come from? How did it infect the world? If you look at the science, the answer is 1. If you look at whatever is of course, filtered through what is acceptable to society, to certain society, the answer will be completely different. You may actually be persecuted for asking the question in a different way. So why do we need to have people that are not necessarily specialists in AI? Is because of that. We need to come together with some sort of an agreement on the basic fundamental principles, and what we have right now, it's awful. Other than that, everything is great.
Okay. Thank you. Many things are on the table, so this is your time. If you want to have to offer a questions, a reflection, very short, your name, where are you from, and if you want to speak especially with one of our panelists.
And I will only take...
or both, not for me, because of course I have nothing to say, very specialist. Please, please. Microphone, please, we have a microphone.
Thank you very much. My name is Salvatore Riso, I'm a cardiologist from Rome, Italy. I'm going to interpret what Dr. TOZZI said about the research, challenging guidelines. So, and this is going to also link with what you said recently, putting data together. So we are basing our decision clinically on evidence-based guidelines. As you said, we can have totally different final decision because guidelines are based on data. So many papers evidence 1A, 1B, 1C based on the number of data coming the papers. So the risk is that if you are revisiting our guidelines based on artificial intelligence, we probably are going to change our practice. So it's not only future research. The problem, how to look, because data are there. Okay. So how can you think that we can still continue to trust guidelines without ever confirmation from artificial intelligence? Is that needed? I think it's a problem for the past, not for the future.
I'm so happy that you're making this question because this is a discussion that we do all the times. And we also wrote a recent paper exactly about this topic. Because somebody is feeling like evidence-based medicine is on the opposite side of AI. My feeling is that these two things should come together, simply. So guidelines are great, and we made great advances simply because of evidence-based medicine in the last 40 years. But unfortunately, guidelines can't be applied to all complex diseases, not to comorbidities, for example. We don't have guidelines for every single problem or condition, and we should do something else. So this is the starting point. How the evidence about AI should be made available is completely open. And it's something that sometimes falls in the field of evidence because we can make clinical trials of interventions like AI diagnostics or therapies. But sometimes it's very difficult to evaluate something which is continuously transforming. We should monitor what's happening. Let me touch a little bit about the need of monitoring. One of the things that we fail to recognize, we have two problems. One is that we feel like once a statement is done, everything is static, does not change over time, which is wrong. The second problem that we have is that we try to keep it simple, and medicine is extremely complex. In these two respects, AI can make a difference, but we can make some effort for adapting the logic that we applied for evidence to something which is extremely different. And that's the challenge of the next 10 years, I would say. And I'm saying that as an epidemiologist, and I'm particularly sensible to this topic.
All right, so the question we need to ask ourselves is a certain set of protocols that we follow, is it best for the patient individually? Is it the best for the country? Is it the best for society? That's the one thing that AI cannot tell you where we need to inject. Should we stick closer to the Hippocratic Oath, the way it was originally written, the sacred relationship between one doctor and one patient and the rest of the world doesn't exist? Or the way they do it right now, where there is all sorts of things in between? Should we introduce algorithms in the AI optimization search? It's stochastics, right? It's applied statistics. So should we introduce considerations of societal benefit as opposed to individual benefit? We get completely different answers. So that's what we need to be able to focus on. Those guidelines that you're talking about are great guidelines, and they've been wonderful. For what? AI gives you the opportunity to be very selective, very clearly selective. I'm optimizing for the patient in front of me, I'm optimizing for the 100 people that have the same disease, or I'm optimizing for the 50 million people in the country of Italy with allocation of resources. Same question, so the question is, should we have considerations like that as part of the guidelines for writing the guidelines based on the data that come, and their link that comes from AI? I had the privilege of working in many places in my life, in some fantastic places, many wonderful people, and places of power as well. You know, we talked about the European Union, I've worked in the US government, the Pentagon, all sorts of different places. The one place where I got the feeling that the density of power in the air was something I've never seen before, is the JP Morgan and Associates meeting that deals with biopharma once a year. All the CEOs of all the major pharmaceutical companies come and talk to the lead venture capitalists, and that's where power is. That's who decide who lives and who dies. Large masses of people. Where are we putting the money to develop the new drugs? What diseases? How do we decide that? It's decided by the private sector based on data optimization that generates the greatest financial returns. And that is the job of the private sector. It cannot be any other way. So how do we mediate between what is the job of the private sector and us as a society at large? That gives you entirely different answers, even starting from the same set of data. So the ethics is not in the data. Data is the data. You need to make sure that you have it is correct, and whatever it is how you analyze it. So that is why AI is the right place to talk about these things, and that is why it will truly change the world, probably for the worse.
Thank you. Please. Okay.
Hello. Hi, my name is Catherine Lenardi. I'm the CEO and founder of an AI company based in Montreal. It's the first time that I see a panel talking about ethics where we include religious leaders as well. So I commend that. I'm very happy about that. So my question would be the following. As a founder, and you mentioned a lot of big names at the beginning, Reverend. I'm not part of these big names. You know, we're a small startup. We don't have the means of these big companies. But of course, it's really dear to my heart. And it's very important for me, the notion of AI for good. I believe it in my soul, in my heart. And most of the decision we need to take as CEO and founder of the diverse AI ecosystem sometimes could be conflicting, because you mentioned it, Professor TOZZI, the regulations are really different. So what words of wisdom would you share with younger leaders of AI company and tech company that need to struggle sometimes, because we're building the plane as we fly it, in terms of applying AI, in terms of selecting the right approach with cash flow issues and challenges, the necessity and the challenges related to delivering the goods, the competition, the IP, and then this very important notion of building AI for good. So what words of wisdom would you share with young leaders who need to take decision, practical decision in a very fast-paced environment, so that they could do AI for good and be successful at the same time?
Thank you. Sure.
There is a famous song in Texas that the cowboys sing, you may have heard it. It's called Mamas, Don't Let Your Babies Grow Up to Be Cowboys. And then it explains why you don't want to be a cowboy. So I'm going to answer you with a song, Mamas, don't let your babies grow up to do AI. Very difficult, very, very difficult. I think the best advice is to create a network of people that are in your situation, of young CEOs, and congratulations on your entrepreneurship. You're the type of person that will change the world. You're the right class, and all honor to you. And find a way to connect to people that have also made all the possible mistakes multiple times, such as me, so that at least you have to come up with a different set of errors because the old ones have already done. So it's a mutual mentorship, if you will. I think it's the only way about it, but thanks for appreciation of ethics.
A bit more optimistic, come on, because actually something about the willing to be connected with others and making some political sensibility, which is also very, very important. Without the political involvement, it will be very, very challenging. But it's not impossible, it's absolutely possible, and I'm looking forward to your success.
You trust politics, huh?
Come on.
Another
You trust politics?
Okay.
Dave?
Here we have a madam here, and then two.
Come on. So we're staying for the rest of the evening here.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
Hi, Simon Roslingham from Behold.ai. We're a Prix Galien UK 2022 winner for Best Digital Health Solution. Just in terms of it is AI, so I just want to describe what we do. So a chest x-ray is performed. It's usually read by a consultant radiologist. It takes 10 years to train those consultant radiologists, and we have a 40% shortfall globally of consultant radiologists. My technology in 7 seconds will diagnose you on normal, automated, autonomous AI diagnosis. It's been rolled out in the NHS. Nearly 12% of the NHS is actually taking the product, but what you also do is we actually spot if it's suspected lung cancer. And in the combination of the radiologist plus AI, we get above expert reader level performance. And the real world data is actually showing that we are above expert reader level. And I wanted to ask the panel, and particularly Reverend Andrea, about ethics. There will come a point, do you think, and this is the question, will it become unethical not to use a technology like mine?
You're right.
This is for you.
Yes, we discover that we need an ethical vision on this digital transformation. This is the point. Ethical was not a very fashion word. Today, everybody speaks about ethics. The Pope toured the G7, okay. No, we need algorithms. Yes, we need. And I think we can work. Okay, no? Is working? No? Sorry. Okay. Now it's too much. I think that we can work on ethics on AI first if we put the question on ethical technologies are made at the beginning and not at the end. I don't think that technologies are neutral. No, technologies are never neutral because they are fruit of a culture, of a situation. We discussed about a lot today about the social world in which a technology is developed at the beginning or by design. And so we need to do this not only with the users, but also with the companies that produce and project these technologies. And second, I think we need not only a multidisciplinary approach, as you said before, but a transdisciplinary. So we need not only to have around the table different perspectives, but we need that different perspectives works together from the beginning. I think these are two conditions in which it's possible to have a real ethical approach to this new technology.
Thank you very much for what an excellent conversation and panel discussion. I really appreciate it. I'm Ida Yousefi from London, also a prior prize winner from 2022 for digital health solutions. We've talked a lot, and I've heard a lot about the problems and the challenges we face, and I'm encouraged to hear you, in your position of power, had so many challenges during COVID. We all did in digital health technology, trying to implement and transform different healthcare systems. One of the statements I live by is, how can we share knowledge for the better of mankind? We've heard a lot of problems, we've heard a lot of challenges. What are the solutions that you have got in mind for us and that we can implement, that are sitting in this room and outside, that can actually make a tangible difference? to help us go forward correctly in AI and digital revolution and digital hybrid mechanisms of health in healthcare.
Thank you. The next 3 Nobel Prize for Peace, of course, are on the stage and are absolutely able to answer your question. Thank you. Please. 1 minute.
I don't know if it works. Let me get this one. Well, no obvious solutions, absolutely. But let me tell you 2 things. I feel like we should at least prioritize the things that we should do. One is trying to go for equitable solutions. And actually, what he was asking was, is ethical not to use AI when it's needed? I'm thinking of those patients who have not access to specialized care, for example, but they can be reached out by an AI application. This is an opportunity that we can't say no. This is one thing. The second part is that there are some operational things that we may address with artificial intelligence. One is trying to simplify some processes that we have in the hospitals, in the patient journey, and in other things. These are low-hanging fruits. Let's start with this kind of things, because it's simple. And also, this will serve to demonstrate that AI is not a magic object, but it's something real, and increase the level of culture in decision makers. Because otherwise, it will be very difficult. Data access, addressing bias, trying to revamp and revive all these discussions about ethics. Much depends on the political engagement. And we absolutely need them. I'm not sure that we will succeed in a short time, but we can try to put the real foundation for a good discussion in the future. That's my feeling.
Okay, I'll answer very quickly. All right, so going back to what I did the European Union thing, it's so I made the recommendations, do this, that, the other, bring together Chicago, whatever else. Of course, every country retreated to the basement. Nobody talked to anybody, nobody shared anything, gave up all of the patents to President of the United States. So all those things happened. And I was unhappy about that. It became very political. What happened to the proposal became very political. The Scientific Council, that is the governing scientific body of the European Research Council, I called a meeting of the Scientific Council to decide what share of our $2 billion budget. I was funding like 17 Nobel laureates. There's got to be somebody smart among those, right? So I was thinking, let's think creative ideas, something new that we can do. Let's come together and decide how much of our budget we are going to be dedicating to COVID. Nobody came to the meeting. It's public information. I had it recorded. They all refused to come to the meeting. So given A plus B, my decision at the time was to resign. I said, I'm going to resign. I write a letter, got published on the Financial Times front page, was all over the world, in which I said, this is what's happening, and I was confident that this step would ignite a fierce debate where the people would say, no, we gotta do this, we gotta do that. The truth is, nobody gave a damn. You didn't even know yourself. Nobody knew, nothing. So it went, it fizzled right away, and we keep on going. I'm an optimist by nature. All the pessimistic comments that I made was a provocation, hoping that somebody would disagree, so that I could fake that I agree with somebody I disagree with. I am a perennial optimist. You cannot be in this line of business unless you are an optimist. Yeah. But how to turn politics into things that work? It's a matter of political engagement, societal conscience, and that is, of all the things, perhaps the item that I'm less optimistic about. But okay. I spend a lot of time in schools talking to kids, because I hope they can do the things that we were not able to do.
Okay, we have 3 minutes. Okay, you have 30 seconds. And 30 seconds, no more than.
Slavan Richomik, I'm a medical doctor from Poland and also advisor to Cube Labs. I'm a military doctor, so we have a rule of 5-25, meaning you first secure perimeter of 5 meters, and then you go with your troops 25 further. So it's not the question about whether AI or not. The question is how much AI and where. Of course, there is no common solution. I'm not following the ECG, so to say, suggestion from the equipment. Never. I'm doing by myself. Even when the system is showing me, oh, it's possible atrial fibrillation or something. We are not doing this. As long as we do not trust, let us have a time for this. Medicine is an art. It's nothing like, we can industrialize. It's a very good comment. There is a huge perspective for the analysis of TK or X-rays or something, because there is a lot of information databases needed. But in the end of the day, okay, so my question would be, we shall have identify also control factor of legal frame, which will force us doctors to follow the rules and standards, meaning even if we know we'll be forced by the law, meaning this needs to be also supervised in terms of creation of those algorithms which are forcing us, for example, for the foot amputation in the diabetes instead of treating it, because it will be cheaper for the system.
I think you're exactly right, and to me one of the greatest dangers of AI is what they call doctor burnout. When doctors cannot do what they think is the best interest of the patient in front, you get burned out. You fall out of love with your profession, becomes very difficult to work. That's a huge crisis, a huge problem. I completely agree with you. And to answer the question, the thing that we cannot do yet properly, we think about making better and better algorithms. That's small stuff. What is really big, what actually happens is that greater and greater computational power completely overwhelms you, how smart you are with the algorithms. But the one thing that we need to be able to fit in that doctors can and AI cannot is context of the person, of the community, of the family, of the hospital. That's the real difference maker.
Thank you. No? No, it's enough.
He's burned out.
Okay. 2 ideas and a question for everybody. The first is, okay, we are in a medical context, a scientific context. We spoke about artificial intelligence, and the words was cultural, trust, equality, justice, music. No, boring, no, unfortunately. Okay, so AI ethics, also in healthcare, is a social issue. This is the point, it's a social issue. And the second conclusion, we spoke about, and we talked about data. Okay, data we can use, we can try, okay, but sorry, we are more than our data. Yes, we are more. And we are body, flesh. I'm a Catholic priest. My concern is about, not soul, sorry, but about flesh. So, common people do not understand why their medical doctor doesn't touch their bell during the visit, the flesh. And so the question is, what about bodies and flesh in the era of artificial intelligence? We have a lot of work to do. Keep in touch.